Hey, Peter.
Hello. Oh, sorry I'm late.
You're early compared to everybody else.
Well, yeah, okay, sorry we're all late.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I haven't heard, I know Alice, I haven't heard from either Al or Ben either way, whether they were coming or not.
Okay.
So I guess we should wait. Do we, Charmaine, do we have anyone from the public, by the way?
Not that I've been made aware of. I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
No communications, right?
Negative.
So no.
Okay. Okay. They're both, let me just make sure I don't have any emails from them. Both.
It's definitely odd. I don't think I've ever had a committee meeting where there was only one person here by like a couple after the start time.
Yeah, let me text them.
And not that we have a lot to go over here anyway, but we do have kind of a harder stop because of the fire chief swearing in. So.
Oh, right, 6:45.
Yeah. Oh, Tony's coming on. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Sorry, I was in the building last week. I almost came and knocked on your door to say hello, but I hadn't made the appointment, so it didn't make sense. I didn't feel appropriate.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Oh, never mind. Hey, Ben. I have not heard from Al, but I know that we're still in tax season. Has anyone, Tony or Ben, have you heard?
No, I assume he's not going to be here.
Yeah.
Given the deadline for the 17th, I'm sure he's doubly busy.
Right. All right. So I think that's probably right. Let's go ahead. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:03. No one here from the public. I just asked previously, and no written comment to note. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, then we have the minutes for the last meeting. I'm sorry.
I move to approve.
Any changes? I second. Any changes?
No.
Okay. Minutes are approved. And then, I always do that. Staff reports. Sorry.
The only comments I would make, which I'll share again here in a little bit, is that based on the feedback the council provided over the last several budget workshops, and with the knowledge that it's your collective goal to maintain the same tax rate in FY22 that you have for the last 2 fiscal years. Charmaine and I and others are working diligently to figure out where adjustments should be made to achieve that, and you can expect revised recommendations presented to the council next Monday.
For the budget. Okay.
For the budget, yeah.
Okay.
Does your proposal include using external money to keep us on track rather than simply cutting existing expenditures?
Yes. So, while it's a work in progress, so I don't want to signal anything too definitively. I can say, Tony, with a high degree of confidence that the lion's share of adjustments, quote unquote, that you see will be on the revenue side. Very minimal changes on expenditure side that would have any impact on services. Actually, the 2 areas I can think of right now where there are adjustments on the expenditure side are actually added expenditures. Some oversights were noted. I mean, we're talking small dollar things. They probably wouldn't even move the mill rate like a penny, but just talking about upwards of maybe $3,000 worth of added expenditure. And then the adjustments would be on the revenue side, combination of less conservative, I guess, assumptions about pilot and use of ARPA funds to recover lost revenues and things of that nature. So,
Thank you.
Are there any other staff comments reports before we get to the new business? Okay. On old business, just I talked to some. I mean, we still have not. They're still underwriting us. I guess they're Kermer to see what the cost of a additional $5 million premium, $5 million coverage would be for the umbrella policy or excess policy. So we haven't heard back yet from them. On new business, appoint the auditors. Charmaine?
Yes. So Bloom Shapiro has been the audit firm. We contracted back in 2016-17. And we, for a 3-year contract with 2 years of extension, this would be the final year of an extension. I think they do a good job in the roto-rooter, if you will, of the finance department. When they audit us, I'm familiar with the team. Interestingly enough, the audit manager is someone who I've actually been exposed to in my previous employer. So they will, even though the company has merged with something called Clifton Larson Allen LLP, the same team that has been in place for the past, or at least the same partner and the same manager and junior auditor. So they add and supplement other members of the firm, but those 3 key individuals will be still in place for this final audit should we approve them. So again, once we get through fiscal year 2021, we will start the RFP process for the next audit firm.
When do we need to, for practical purposes, especially if we're going to have, if we decide to have a new auditor, when do we need to have that in place for that auditor to be able to do next year?
My goal is to start the RFP process hopefully by December, because they audit the previous fiscal year. So if we have the RFP process in place, and we choose.
Did you say September or December?
December. In December. Hopefully by that point, keeping everything crossed, and that's in a very optimistic outlook for me, that the auditors would be completed with this current fiscal year before we start the RFP process, but it is what it is. As you know, we're bringing on a new financial management system and trying to cut over 2 different years and do the 2 different systems for the previous year and the next year, and close out and train people and be able to provide the requisite information from the old system to the auditors is a laborious process, but hopefully the finance department, won't slow them up. So the burden would very much be on my team to make sure that we provide them with everything that they need so that they can be prepared to finish up that audit by Thanksgiving. Because I really don't want to do an RFP while they're in-house, if you will. I just would prefer not to do it while they're in-house. And if we can get the RFP set and established and take our time, so to speak, meaning the month of December, to truly vet good options, make a choice, hopefully by February, because if we choose an alternative firm, there's that time that it will take for them to thoroughly do the pre-review of us. There's going to be a lot of review, and then just the whole startup process takes a couple of, I would say, several weeks. So I would want to be able to give them that opportunity to do that while in the current fiscal year, so that when they go to audit us for that past fiscal year, they would have had the breadth and opportunity to do that pre-work before the close of the fiscal year. If that makes sense.
Well, I'll call them Bloom Shapiro just right now. I'll remember that. Yeah. So their second year extension ends at the end of this current fiscal year, correct?
It ends after they audit this current fiscal year. So they'll
Okay.
physically be in-house from July through to whenever they finish auditing this fiscal year.
Okay, which is usually how long again?
I'm not 100% sure with the town of Mansfield. Last year was a bit of a challenge, and with the staff kind of not being available, plus pandemic and everything else that was going on. My past experience with Bloom Shapiro, now CLA, and that particular audit manager, generally for, we also have multiple agencies that they're doing. So I would expect that they should be done by Thanksgiving. So if they start in July, the end of July, and move through Thanksgiving,
Okay.
that's 4 months.
Do we need to get presumably we want to, as we go ahead and decide for the net, who the new, or whether to retain Bloom Shapiro or get a new one, that we coordinate with the various boards that are part of shared service.
Absolutely.
But is it our decision? Oh, solely? Or how do we vote on this? There may not be any differences, but if there are, I don't.
So based off of the way the auditors review the books, Eastern Highlands Health District, Region 19, and the town of Mansfield are the three individual agencies that vote on who the auditor of record should be. Eastern Highlands Health District and Region 19 have already accepted, because based off of when they actually have their meetings, the appointment of CLA as their audit firm. The health district had their next meeting won't take place until I think the end of June. So the state requires that we certify who will be our auditor by June 30th.
Peter was asking, I think, when we do the RFP.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought exactly. So they'll participate in the exercise as well. They all have to vote on it, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thanks. It's just just to finish up on that. How does it work in terms of if there's a difference? Do we, each vote weighted by budget, percentage we pay into the budget, or it may not even be spelled out? I'll have to look.
I don't know that it's spelled out, and I do have that anxiety. We talked about that, my anxiousness earlier today, that there would be a dissension. I'm hopeful that there won't be a dissension, but if there is, let's pretend R19 just says, whatever, we want to stick with CLA, you guys can do whatever. That means I get audited twice, which is insane for me, which means R19 would have to pay for the unique firm, which would be CLA if we were going with someone else. And then I would also have to charge for our time on top of what we already charge from a shared services standpoint. So it's not in the best interest for either of the smaller agencies, R19 and Eastern Highlands Health District, to go against the grain, if you will, as far as the town council's preferred vendor, because they're going to have to pay more. We would too, but they too would have to pay more.
Tony?
Does the Board of Ed have any separate say in this?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Ben?
They're tied to us.
Oh, Ben, did you have a question? I didn't know if you had your...
No, I was ready to approve the extent, or to recommend the extension.
Okay.
Folks
So
are good.
do we need to...
Yes.
They're already on an extension though, I think, right?
No, we need to recommend their extension for another year. Correct?
Okay.
Yes.
We're on the first year extension. Now we're going to the second year extension.
Oh,
We've done 5 years of audits for us, I believe, right?
all right, I thought it was, we had already done that, we did 2 years. Okay, Ben, you move, I'll second. And then we'll, recommend this to the town council tonight. All in favor, you and I are both approved, so it's 2-0. 2-0. 2-0, it's not a ball game, sorry about that. Okay, the write-off, move to the write-off to suspension list.
Yes, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you to proceed.
So basically, there is $36,602.44 that we're asking to be transferred to the suspense. Although we're doing that, we will definitely continue to try and collect on that for the maximum 15 years that we have to by law to be able to collect on it. We just need to move it off of the books, so to speak, from the standpoint of it being dollars that we would budget against when we have, as we sit here today, the tax collector's office has no expectation of being able to secure that $36,000, which is a substantial amount of money to have in our budget that we don't have any expectation of collecting in the next fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions? All right.
I'm happy to move this as well if you're ready, Peter.
Yep, go ahead.
I move to recommend the town council that we write off the suspense list that is attached to the agenda.
Okay. All right, I agree. Any comments, anyone? Okay, passes.
Okay.
Oh, Tony, go.
Point out that it's on the consent agenda, so if anybody raises any question about it, would you guys be ready to talk to it?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, and then financial statements.
Okay. So you, I hope, have before you the quarterly financials for as of March 31st. And as I go through them, for the most part, we are in a very good position, with the exception of some of the areas that we've already been, looking at and talking about all year long. Our tax collection, I've said this over and over again, our citizens pay, and they pay on time for the most part. The simple dip that we've had this quarter has been a little over 1%, and that, after talking with the tax collector, is more about timing. As you recall, the governor had extended, I think late in December, gave everyone an extension on their next tax payments. And as such, that pushed out our ability to send out delinquent notices until after March 31st. However, the tax collector is of the mindset that he's going to start seeing, the balance. Again, those who do not pay or did not pay are generally those who don't normally pay on time anyhow. Citizens have been very responsive and paying their taxes, so we're in a good space as it relates to our revenue. Any questions there? My favorite one is conveyance taxes.
Okay,
Huge increase for that one. That was unexpected. $156,000. It's more than 100% of budget.
And that's presumably due to the fairly hot real estate market?
Yes, sir. I think, Ryan might have contributed to that, to that number. Appreciate you.
Just trying to pull my weight around here.
Appreciate it.
Just make sure your extended family moves in within the year. That's all.
Yeah, we were going to buy less house, but then I had to remind my wife, but the conveyance tax. So we really want to do what we can.
Love a team player.
You may be the only person in town to think that way, but thank you.
We were going to buy less house, to be clear, but that was not the reason why we bought more house.
So that helps a little bit. Also, the state support, we've been getting our money. So we've gotten our education cost share, 50%, as you know, we were expecting. We'll get the balance of it. We should have gotten it for April. We'll reconcile, we'll do the journal entries, and it'll be on our final quarter's reports. But we've gotten the lion's share of the money that we were expecting in a timely fashion from the state, which is huge. All three of our pilot monies we've gotten, so we don't have to worry about that being outstanding. And charges for service. So we have it's a little less than what we were expecting, fines and forfeitures.
I'm
sorry?
Which account?
The fines and forfeitures.
Okay.
Okay, but it's again, it's 19% of budget. As far as there should be probably a little bit more of an uptick now that we're in the spring season, and there's going to be more engagement on our all of a sudden I can't remember the name of the department, Mike Ninto's area.
Building and housing.
Thank you. And so we'll see what that looks like. That is a little lower than what was expected for March 31st, but we're hopeful that we'll pick it back up again. And then there's our interest income, which is
the issue building permits or fines? Because I was wondering that
it's fines.
Fines,
but right, when you go even with the health department, them having with COVID not going necessarily being as actively involved in the physical reviews of the respective businesses and or properties, since they're not going as much as they were. I'm feeling like with everyone getting their vaccines and things opening up, then there'll be more activity. And therefore, they'll find more things. And therefore, they'll charge more fines.
Oh, Lord. Let's put it this way. If there's more activity, there are going to be more people out there trying to skirt the law, and we'll catch them.
There you go. Okay. That might be better way to put it.
On miscellaneous, and this is on page 11 of the packet. Talk about total interest income, 22,000, almost 23. 22,000 compared to 375,000. So that's obviously a tremendous drop. Is that pure? I mean, it looks so. Presumably, but the interest rates have been incredibly low for years.
So the interest rates have been incredibly low for years, but comparatively speaking, we went from 1.84%, and let's not forget some of the projects that were in play, some of the monies that were sitting in capital at the beginning of the fiscal year that we've been spending down on projects. As we pay our contractors, obviously that money goes away. So we went from 1.84% in interest rate, interest on these accounts to 0.11%. So not only is your principal dropping, but so is the interest rate is non-existent.
Okay, so and this is all, and we don't. I didn't think the interest rate dropped anywhere that much. It was very low, but is this based on our own particular investments,
So we keep our money in STIF accounts, the Connecticut STIF account.
Okay.
And that's the rate of return that we have. Okay.
how do we, so we had anticipated presumably then for budget in the 375 or really 376,000. So what have we done, or how has this shortfall hurt us in terms of budgeting?
Well, it's a pretty sizable number, and this is one of the areas, Peter, that we've flagged for rescue plan reimbursement, thinking that the changes in interest rates largely linked to sort of the COVID economy. And so that $350,000 shortfall, we believe, is eligible for reimbursement through ARPA.
We're at least going to ask for it.
Going to ask for it. Not going to get what you want to ask for.
Okay.
Seems reasonable, though, based on what we've read thus far.
If we don't get it, what are you thinking in terms of alternatives?
Do you mean how does that impact our?
I'm sorry, I should have been clearer. Yes.
Well, we are right as I sit here right now. I cannot. We've received some degree of grant funds from the Corona Relief program, so we can apply towards certain budgeted areas such as facilities or maintenance where they've got a lot of PPE, overtime, all of these items that are eligible. We need to be able to apply against those overages that are in those respective budgeted lines. So that'll help exponentially. And there are also a lot of stuff, if you will, programs, activities that have not taken place and will not take place this fiscal year because the budget wasn't adjusted. Because, there was an expectation that this will pass sooner than what it did. So because there's been activity that has been restricted, there's some savings that we'll have. I don't have a year-end outlook as I sit here today, but this is all the things that the finance department is looking at right now so that we can make so that I can make some good recommendations, or at least ask some really pointed questions of my peers within the department head areas to make sure that they're actually going to spend what they've encumbered. I will say that, I don't even know if I shared this with you earlier, Peter, the charge that I put forth against the Board of Eds was for them to get all of their spending, or at least 90% of their spending accomplished by April 15th, and the town on the town side by May 15th. So that we can have a better sense for what is actually going to be used. So anything that doesn't get through the pipeline by May 15th, it goes towards sort of like the bottom line, if you will, across the entire budget where there are shortfalls, such as the one that we were just talking to. So for me, we're keeping an eye on it. I can't give you a specific answer right now as to how negatively that $300,000 shortfall in revenue is going to hit us when there are potential savings and there's Corona relief funds that we will be looking to apply to already the existing expenditures that are in our system.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's the other question. The cemetery fund, there's a note here. Well, I just had it. Page 13, 14 of the packet. Reduction in fund balance due to unrealized loss on investments, and they should be reviewed for potential reallocation.
Yep. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the rate of return on that particular fund is it's riding at a loss. So it's not with the other items that, the other monies that we have. The investment pool shows up right behind. If you dig into the financial statements and you go to the comparative statement of revenues and expenditures, there's an investment pool report that shows how the funds are not gaining any interest. We're running at a loss. So this is something, it's in the treasury, the long, and there's a T. Rowe Price and the Vanguard investments. There's two different funds that the money is in, and it's not operating at the most optimal levels. So we need to, it's not a might, we need to revisit.
Okay. So, who makes the investment decisions for them if it's not in its general pool?
So that's something I need to read against our policy, our financial management policy, because the cemetery fund is not part of the general fund. I believe it would be you, but I need to double check that to see if the respective individuals who coordinate with us, who are part of the whatever that program is that Sarah Ann engages with as far as making sure that they take care of the cemeteries. And also I would need to check against any caveats that I have associated with the state, since we have to maintain a certain fund balance in that account. So I have to do some research, but I believe it's you, it's the town council.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I've monopolized the questions. Tony?
I don't remember the town council ever making a decision about how the cemetery committee would invest its money.
I don't either.
Again, since I've never had to deal with this particular fund other than managing the ins and outs, like I said, I'd have to do some research and touch base with Sarah Ann, since she's my conduit to that committee, and also look at our policy.
Okay. Never understood. Okay. Other comments or questions?
If there are not, I will move to recommend the council adopt the financial statements.
Okay. Any comments from anyone? All right.
Question, how about healthcare? I haven't looked at these.
Okay, so our balance is improving. But let's see, what was it? You go ahead, Charmaine.
Is there a particular question, Madam Mayor, that you're concerned about with the?
Are we spending it down? Where do we stand?
So context is everything for me. So as I was sharing with Peter in a prior discussion, I always want to remind people, the medical insurance plan is on a calendar year versus a fiscal year. And as such, the incurred but not reported is dragged out for several more months during our fiscal year. That crosses over fiscal years, because it's not on the same fiscal year. So I say that to say that the claims are coming in as expected. However, that does not mean that there's not going to be, when I say as expected, there was an expectation that there would be more participation in medical services going to physicians and so on and so forth, which there was, but a lot of folks were doing video or telehealth, which is not charged at the same rate as in person. So now that the expectation is that people are more, the doctor's offices have opened up over the past 6 months or so, the claims are coming in as expected. So even though it looks like there's a extra money, so to speak, $65,000, I think is what the difference is of expenditures revenue over expenditures. That's because everybody, meaning employees per pay period, pay their premiums, and the employers, we charge each employer on a recurring basis. So that money is just coming in. The premiums are coming in more steadily than the actual claims that are hitting the fund. I don't know if that answers your question.
So it looks a little richer than it is, but we aren't in any trouble in any way.
Oh, no.
We're what, 150%
Maintained.
or 250% over what we need to be. minimum?
We've maintained our, we need to have over $2 million in order to be compliant with the fully funded plans, which we are. Again, this fund does not just pay claims, it pays all kinds of other sort of administrative fees associated with the health insurance plan. So we tend to look at the claims because I think that's what people are most interested in, and that's where the big swings come. But there are administrative fees that are associated with managing the medical insurance, the life insurance, all these other types of expenditures that are associated with health and wellness that are in that fund for all of the 6 agencies.
Right.
And next year, we're going to take $900,000 out of it for the next fiscal year's employer and employee share reductions.
Okay, I thought that was for this year for some reason.
You took money out last year too for this fiscal year.
Yeah, right. So we haven't made a decision for next year.
It's incorporated in the budget.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, for next year. Okay.
I just want to make sure, real quick, I just thought in case anybody gets to the very end of the packet or towards the end of the packet and wonders after the meeting, if you look at, I don't know what page it is in the packet, unfortunately, but in one of these reports, there's the expenditure summary by activity, and on the second page, it shows where our grand total is, and I just wanted to point out that probably the single biggest item that's an expenditure that hasn't hit the books yet that will before the year's out is the resident trooper program payment. So when you see that we're 75% of the way through the year and we've only expended 68% of our budget, we're not really at 68% in a sense, because that other, whatever it is, $1.67 million will hit the budget soon. And if you pretended that had already been paid, our 68% expended would jump up to closer to like 73%. So we would be within a couple percentage points of, being 3/4 of the way through the year. So I would say our actual expenditures are tracking very closely with our budgeted expenditures right now.
And no additional expenses on the trooper program that we didn't anticipate.
No, we know what the number is. But if we'd already paid it, we wouldn't be like 68% expended. We'd be closer to 73. So.
Okay. And then I guess the Parks and Recreation is slightly better. The loss is slightly less than we had anticipated.
Less worse. I think the phrase is less worse.
Yeah, but I guess it is less worse. But it's still, and so talking about this, and Todd and the staff have done a very good job in terms of on personnel costs, which of course is always double-edged because it means a lot of some part-time employees are no longer working, and that's been true for a while. But that saved a fair amount of money. So I was trying to.
Just a reminder, we're about 5 minutes out from a fire chief swearing in.
All right. Okay.
There's a motion on the floor.
To approve, yes. Thank you. All right. Any other comments? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Ben and I. All right. As of we do have 1 minute or 2 minutes. Any suggestions for future agenda items?
I don't.
Charmaine, Ryan, is there anything that you want to put on an agenda, at least that comes to mind now?
Nothing coming to mind specifically for the finance committee at this moment.
I know this is a very hectic time. All right.
Other than to say, I would go as far as saying that, I alluded to this I actually didn't send it to the full council. Ben and Tony probably would have been the only ones that saw it, but we did I sent out some preliminary guidance to departments relative to their brainstorming and sort of pre-prioritization, if you will, for rescue plan investments. So at some point, some recommendations will probably come before finance before that goes on to the full council. This is obviously not a typical situation, these supplemental funds. I don't know how recovery, quote unquote, dollars have been reviewed by council in the past, if it's always gone from staff right to full council, or finance has had a crack at it, but I'm certainly open to that if that's been past practice, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
and I second, and we adjourn at 6:41. And Charmaine and Ryan, thank you very much for preparing this, and we will see you all in a couple minutes.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.